Hey everyone, I am Melissa Manrique. I am the marketing manager here at Wild Heart, and I'm joined by these two lovely artists. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name's Jules Pashall. I'm a somatic practitioner and a fat activist, and an artist, performance artist, and a facilitator.
I'm Scarlet Tunkl. I am a somatic practitioner, also an artist and facilitator and writer, and just community being a part of person.
Thank you so much, Jules and Scarlett, for meeting with me this morning. I want to be able to expose everyone to this awesome retreat that you're doing exclusively for fat people. It's called the Touching Fat Sensual Somatics for Fat People Retreat. And I just kind of want you both to give an overview of what people can expect if they join for this retreat.
You want me? I can take this one away. Yeah, so Jules and I's like ultimate vision, I think, and you jump in at any point, Jules, is to create a space for people to feel themselves in new ways, in new depths, with new kinds of joy and celebration and sensuality. Um, Insulated, I'm not sure if that's the exact word I want to use, but like held by a container that is just fat people, which this is like so rare, like so rare. And I think Jules and I have both gotten like little glimpses of this in parts of our lives, and we know that it's like so healing and can be just like a complete game changer for the way fat people experience embodiment. And so we want to give that opportunity to as many people as we can. And also, I think we just want to have like a really good time. Like, we just want to like just have an amazing time with fat people. Jules, you want to add?
Yeah, I want to have a really good time with fat people. I want fat people to have a good time with each other. I think in this moment in particular, I know we'll talk about this, but it just feels so, yeah, as Scarlett was saying, rare to get that opportunity to gather with other fat people and not with the goal of changing our bodies or losing weight or finding something that's wrong with our bodies, but actually coming to our bodies as these great resources. And and I think specifically we're focusing on touch because touch is so important to our capacity to grow and live these really full lives. And for fat people, can often be really fraught to receive and give touch, even with ourselves. And so I think really focusing on a space for fat people to feel themselves in an internal way of like, oh, I'm really with myself, I'm feeling myself, and also to like feel ourselves and touch ourselves and touch each other if that's what ends up feeling right and feeling good, and explore what's possible in that space of making that kind of physical contact with ourselves and with each other. Yeah.
Oh, I love the language I used of like we're gonna like bringing all these people together and not trying to change them, but just kind of having people accept like what it is and just touching yourselves and feeling what you have. That's cool language. But how did you guys get in this work exactly, and how did this retreat come to be?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's such a big question. I think this retreat came to be because I love working with Wild Heart and I have a relationship with Wild Heart, and I love Scarlet, and like Scarlet and I like to work are looking for ways to work together and we want to have fun. And so um that's sort of how this retreat came to be. And I think I come to this work because I've been fat my whole life. And I come to this work with a background as a theater practitioner and a performance artist. And um, spent a lot of time thinking about what my body looked like and also entering fat activism and body positivity from an approach of accepting what my body looks like. And then over time, as I sort of grew in the work, really became about, oh, what does it feel like to be in my body? What does it feel like to be in a fat body? And then I studied somatics and was like, oh, fat is often really excluded from how we talk about feeling and being in bodies. So oftentimes for people of any size, fat's not a tissue or a place in the body that most practitioners will ask us to come for with curiosity. Oftentimes fat is ignored because of the ways in which fat phobia operates. And so um, a lot of my work now is about including fat in embodiment practices, and so not just for fat people. This is a space for fat people, but for we all have fat on our bodies, and what do we lose when we don't include fat in our explorations of body? And then in terms of creating a space for fat people, knowing that that can be such a sacred, special space, to get to explore that together, where you don't have to, affinity space is not perfect. It's not without difference. It's not without different experience, but there can be something really special about gathering under a shared identity and shared experience that offers in a unique way. Yeah. Scar, you want to add?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about how did this come to be, and thinking about like I feel like Jules and I were like in each other's orbit for a few years and like becoming friends and like colleagues, and I feel like there was like quite a while we're like we should work together somehow. We should work together somehow, and then it just seems to be like coming together this year in these really beautiful ways, and it just got really clear, and it got really it felt really easy, which for me, that's like a sign that something is meant to be, when you just kind of like catch a flow around it. And I also think it came to be because I think that there, for both Jules and I, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, Jules, but I think we're both trying to create the things we're craving and longing for in the world for ourselves.
Mm.
And seeing, like it's really hard to be together right now. Like everyone's so spread apart. Everything is hard to access. People are exhausted, and so just really trying to, I feel like we're just dedicated. We're like, we're gonna figure out ways to do this work no matter what, and make it accessible no matter what. And so like we're doing like a free online thing because we know everyone can't come to New York, and things like that. But I feel like that is what is bringing me to this retreat right now, is just like I am committed to creating the things I want in the world, because if we don't, who will? Um and how did I come to this work? I mean, such a long, windy road. The thing that immediately popped into my head when you said that, which I did not expect, was I had this like memory of going to fat camp. And
Yes. Talked about this. Real. I've been thinking this the whole time. I was like, I didn't remember this as part of. Okay, sorry.
no, I don't usually connect them, but like in this moment. And like there was something like special about fat camp.
Yes.
Also terrible. Like
Yes.
like so, but it was this moment of like, it wasn't all fat people, but like mostly fat people like coming together, and we were trying to change our bodies. We were trying really hard, but like in the times where the counselors weren't around, and like you weren't like fucking getting up at 5:30 to like run a track, like there was this like incredible connection of just fat people, and like they would have dances, and we would like make out, and like what like and so I think that's like a root. I love Jules is like
I know, seeing Jules just kind of like, oh my goodness, I had these same experiences
I'm
in the
freaking out because I'm like, how have we not talked about this? But yes, keep going,
I
Scarlett.
think we have like a very little bit, but I don't think, yeah, we need to have some long conversations. all of that to say, I like also, I feel like I was attracted to performance art. I was a performance artist for many years as well. And just being a fat person who was willing to use my body as a tool always felt so transgressive. And yeah, my practice has just developed in so many different ways since then. And I, how do I want to end this little rant? Um, that is like it is something I hated about myself, and now it is something I absolutely fucking cherish. And I want that for as many people who want that. And so that's why I have to do this work.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, I love. And it's just it's also so unique because every time you think of fat, it's just like something so negative, you know? So to like offer this retreat and also like I feel like so if you read kind of what the retreat is about, you guys offer this language where it's like the qualities of fatness, which even reading it is so interesting. It's a soft, lush, fluid, velvety, deep, full, and whole. Like the qualities of fatness that you described. Can you just expand on these qualities? And if there's any kind of like real life examples that participants will experience, like in regards to these qualities that you explain.
I
Yeah.
just want to say one thing really quickly. I feel like a perfect just micro example is like when people hug me, they're like, "Oh my God, you are the best hugger." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just like soft and velvety and deep and full, and that feels good."
Mm.
2-year-old niece, like how she lies on me, like there's just like so much of my body for her to to really like lie on. And I every I do a lot of work where I invite people to sort of think about fat in a different way, or like memories, and oftentimes like grandmother's bodies come up, or like, oh, I remember what it felt like to like hug and be held by my grandmother, or I remember, I know what it's like to like squeeze the pudgy arm of an infant. Like there's something about once we're taken out of bodies needing to be, and there's something about the age, right, that like sort of allows us to be with bodies in a different way when we're talking about elders or we're talking about babies, where we're allowed to like just be in the sort of materiality of the body without sort of assessing it for some kind of value, in the same way you might with like, I think about like fat animals like whales, and I think about right, like these, when you take fat out of what we've been conditioned to think about it, of like what you said, of like it's considered really pejorative in many ways. But oh, when you think about like rubbing, we're going to rub oil on our skin, we're going to like imagine being big animals, we're like, right, there's this way in which if we can sort of like take ourselves out for a moment of like how we've been conditioned to think about fat, all of a sudden we're in this like other place. We're like, oh, this is really like supple and soft and squishy and warm, and in the human body lives in a lot of the erogenous zones of the body more than it does in other places, and has like so much sensation that's present with it. And yeah, and so oftentimes can be like neglected as a place of sensation, not thought of as a place that even like, it's often really, people sort of feel into it as like, you're right, this tissue that could just be gone, like this is tissue we don't need, like cut the fat, trim the fat. But actually, right, like we need fat to live, like we need fat for everything. It's in all of the parts of our bodies. That's like a thing you'll hear me say all the time, is like, your brain is mostly fat, you have fat in the center of your bones, it's connected to everything. And so this sort of wholeness of like accessing fat, all of a sudden, for me at least, I'm accessing way more of my body than I was when I was sort of like trying to disconnect from, even unconsciously, that part of my body. And so all of a sudden I'm brought into like more of my own whole, um, which I don't know about other people, but I'm like in this moment and all moments, but really right now I'm like, oh, I need all of me that I can get. I need
Mm.
everything I got right now. I need everything you got. I need like everything we've all got. Um, to meet this moment. And to me, like fat isn't, for me, it's an access point to like my wholeness. And oftentimes because of the ways also like the ways in which it gets, it's connected to systemic oppression, it can often be a place where the shadow lives, or systemic, like the things we don't want to think about, the things we don't want can sort of get put onto our and into our fat. And so by bringing our focus and being like, this is welcome, we're actually inviting this in, where all of a sudden it's like, whoa, okay, ooh, that's a little scary. It's a little
Mm.
scary to sort of invite all of ourselves in. But that to me is a part of it too, is that like wholeness, like when I talk about wholeness. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about how, fat phobia and all the ways that body shame materializes are this kind of like key tool of empire.
Yes.
Because if we're fractured, if we are trying to tear ourselves apart or disappear ourselves, um, we can't do anything. We can't connect. We can't revolt. We can't feel the truth of what we want and need. And, most people I think are not experiencing life right now as like lush, fluid, velvety, deep. And that's a tactic. Like
Yeah.
that is not by chance. It's not, it is on purpose. And, you know, it's not a new thought that like uh, people that are starving and shrinking are easier to control. But I think that that's all a part of it. And I think in this moment too of like the Ozempic craze and this like really intense wave of weight loss at the same time that, you know, fascism is like alive and well in this like somewhat new way. Um, Yeah, fat is the opposite of all of that. Fat is, there's more than enough. There's plenty, there's softness. And I think, with the retreat, Jules and I are really framing like, how do we create practice that takes its cues from our bodies? How do we use fat as a form
Yeah.
to create healing and create
Mm.
liberation?
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is so important about the rise of fascism with the rise of like a new wave of weight loss culture and fat phobia, right? And that is cyclical. Like when we see rises in fascism, we see body fascism rise. We see like the ways in which the empire wants to create bodies that fit into norms. I mean, we're seeing that right now, and we can connect this to all systemic oppression, right? Like in the way that we're trying to control, not we, I'm not trying to control trans people's bodies, but like the ways in which a fascist empire is trying to control bodies, right? Control women's
Mhm.
bodies, control people of color, control immigrants, control what bodies do, where they can go, what they have access to. These systems of oppression, like when we think about, even if we go to like the genocide in Gaza, like we're holding the ways in which all of those things are functioning together to um, take people out of the body and make the body as if it's not important or it doesn't matter. And like that, like the sort of materiality in the flesh of body is unimportant. That's sort of how we could even let this much death happen around us, is if a body and flesh is not important, who cares, right? We can just, and so actually coming back to like this really actually like this flesh, this tissue is not only like really important, but kind of it, like in terms of how
Uh,
it's connected to the earth, how it's connected to everything. Like, and we're not just talking about people, we're talking about, right, like what's happening to the destruction of our climate, the destruction of our planet. That all of this, if we come back to like, hey, this is fucking important. Like really, this is really extremely important and sort of like has so much wisdom and so much, we're both also, we hold a spiritual practice around, there's a divinity and there is a um an all to like not just ours, like this is something that expands past us. And and like coming back to that being sort of like, for me at least, the crux of this work of like, this is really, really, really important. And without the remembering and feeding into and like deepening our practice to remember that for ourselves too, that right, it can't just be like, oh, I care about other people. It's like, I also have to care about myself, which is sometimes harder. I have to believe that like this matters too, like my actual body matters too. That helps me remember that like the bodies who I've never met before who are being destroyed by like a fascist empire that's meant to protect me, which is a whole other thing, is a lie, is a fallacy, because I know that that tissue matters too. I know that that body matters too. And so, yeah, I don't want to be so grandiose about what it is we're doing here, but this emphasis on like that all of your tissue, including your fat, like, and that fat is a place where empire will try to act like your tissue doesn't matter. Fat, like empire will come in and be like, your tissue is superfluous. We don't need this.
Or your tissue is killing you.
Yes, it's killing. Yes, that's a
This
whole other. Yes.
part of you that is a part of your life force is, is sorry.
Yes, and what they're killing us. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it's like it's either I feel like this matters not at all or too much, and it gets extremed in either direction in this way that is like, again, really polarizing, which is sort of the whole problem with everything right now is it's not all this or this, it's all somewhere here.
And how you were talking about earlier, just kind of like like the higher forces kind of wanting us to be smaller and like not take up so much space, and then you guys are here being like, actually no, we're gonna like take it all in, and like this is a way to be connected with one another, like going back to the body first. Very cool. Very cool. Was there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, like the fun. Oh, sorry, Scarlet, you were saying something.
I was just, like I've been thinking a lot about what it is. Like, we're in a recession. People are really struggling, like literally struggling. And then there's a lot of fear of like what lies ahead and like how will I struggle in the future. And I think it's really hard to like commit to anything right now, like a retreat, and it feels sort of like superfluous. Like, what am I going to go for a weekend, to upstate New York or whatever, and just like frolic and have a good time when like horrific things are happening. And I don't know, like my own reality in the next month, maybe, and I have questions about, hosting something like that during this time, but I also know, so like my practice is built on, we all need fuel. And for me, that fuel is pleasure and joy, because there is so much grief and there is so much hard, and there always will be, right? Whether it's like personal or collective. And I know without those touch points of like, just feeling your body as a place you want to be, as a place that feels good to be in. Without that, that's how we get really lost in nihilism and existentialism and apathy, and we don't feel like we can do anything. And I have to remind myself on a daily basis that prioritizing practices like these are the fuel of the revolution and liberation. And so I just wanted to like add that in there and just remind everyone, whether you would come or not, like we all need these moments if we're going to keep being here and being present with all that is hard.
Yeah, I love that you said that. This just sort of, how do we resource ourselves right now? How do we keep ourselves? I don't know. I'm asking myself that every day. Like, ooh, how do I keep myself going? How do I keep just in my day-to-day life? And then on top of that, like anything I want to offer movement, anything I want to offer my friends, anything I want to offer my family, right? This like sort of having, like, how do I replenish myself? How do I be in reciprocity with myself so that I can show up And again, obviously, it might not be a retreat for whatever reason, but that this space is not meant to like cut you off from the world. It's not like, oh, this is like a respite and then you'll go back. It's like no, this is part of the world. This is part of what we're fighting for. Like this like type
Mm.
of spaces, like this type of access for all people, like this is why like we're doing it like together. It's not separate. And you're not asked to like put your grief to the side to like show up and just like feel sensual. And like that's not the expectation, because we know that when we open ourselves up to our sensuality, to our bodies, it's like lots can come up and there's space for that too. Like there's space for your grief here, there's space for your confusion, there's space, there's space for all of that. And so yeah, just in that wanting to name like all of you is welcome, how you show up to this space, and knowing that yeah, when we open ourselves up to feeling and presence and touch, a lot can emerge, and we want that. We want all of that there, along with it. So yeah.
We want all of you there,
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for speaking with me today. Jules and Scarlett, you guys are awesome and just so knowledgeable. Just from this brief moment we're talking with each other. So make sure to come out to Touching Fat, Sensual Somatics for Fat People. You guys will be hosting it May 29th to June 1st at Wild's Heart. And thank you guys so much. You guys rock.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Great.